What you're looking at is one of the most important building blocks of the British capital's evolution, housing some 9 million today. And this is London's Tower Hill Station, a tube station on the Circle and District lines, located in the London borough of Tower Hamlets, based right here, just off the creatively named square mile of the City of London, which might be noteworthy for having the most out-of-station interchange lines on the rail and tube map, and still having some of the rarest non-Boris, non-Johnston found roundels on the underground network. But even if it might appear to be quite an ordinary station with tens of thousands of commuters using it each day and night, only few find success in realizing that this is one of the more wildly historic and intriguing stations out there, because if you head down to the far end of one of the platforms here, you will find a remnant of the London Wall dating back from the Roman era that's nearly 2000 years old. But what is this London Wall to begin with? Well, let's find out. Rewinding back to the late 19th century, during the Victorian era, there used to exist a station here called the Tower of London, on more or less the exact same site of today's Tower Hill Station in the 1880s that was, funnily enough, open for just 2 years, to be replaced by Mark Lane Station a bit further west, which itself was renamed as Tower Hill in 1946, that was situated along Bible Street and Seething Lane here. But even this was only to be replaced by today's Tower Hill Station in 1967, that was built on the same site as the original 1882 Tower of London Station. But let's get back to something more interesting that far predates that as well. Rewinding back to a time just a decade after Jesus Christ's crucifixion, when the Romans crossed the English Channel and invaded England, they soon gave birth to a settlement on the north bank of the River Thames sometime between AD 43 and 50 CE, and called it Londinium, which gave our capital city its birth just under 2000 years ago. Realizing the importance of the space as it remains today, the Romans soon built a wall around the city of Londinium to enclose and defend it, sometime between the 2nd and 3rd centuries AD, /CE depending on your preference. Over the many centuries since then, this eventually came to be known as London Wall, or as many like to call the Roman Wall, and despite surviving the infamous Great Fire of London of 1666, it gradually started to get demolished over the centuries. But if you ever wait for a train on the Westbound Platform of Tower Hill Station, you wouldn't likely realize that you're standing just meters away from a tiny remnant of the wall exposed inside the station itself. You can see this by looking carefully across the Westbound Platform. Actually, there's two of them here, so Westbound Platform 1 to be precise. And here you can see a gap in the station trackside wall with an old, small and dim spotlight lamp that reveals the Roman wall in a square wooden tiled frame. It was originally excavated and exposed when the station was being resited in the 1960s from the aforementioned Mark Lane site, and was originally demolished when the Circle line was being built to discarding in 1882 by the Metropolitan and Metropolitan District Railways. There is even a plaque behind a pillar for anyone who's curious enough to read, and it's just alongside the local Pizza Express, the station labyrinth, which by the way is numbered 95, just by this cross passage between the two westbound platforms, and whatever this vault-like looking door is. What's perhaps lesser known though is that the small cut section of the wall is actually the continuation of the wall that's right outside the station entrance, which doesn't appear either as a tower or a hill. Shame. Complete with heritage booths for you to read by English Heritage. A lovely touch, which by the way have been recently refreshed to give them more of a colorful 21st century feel. It's a lovely impression to give you a sense of what it may have looked like during its heyday. The structure itself is a Grade 1 listed structure by Historic England, which I can't pretend to lie, but reminds me more of a loaf of bread from the other side for some reason. But it proudly stands at over 10 meters high above the ground under the sun as you measure with the 21st century smartphone. But it's worth noting that the original section from the Roman era only extends from the ground surface up to about this level by this layer of red tiled bricks as seen through the cross section of the wall, whilst the rest of the section had been built on top of during the medieval Middle Ages. And whilst you're busy admiring the marvelous remnant of the wall, you cannot get your eyeballs away from the other pieces on display at the site here, such as this statue believed to be of the Roman Emperor Trajan from the 1st century CE, as the descriptive nameplate at the statue's base reads, who had ruled over the largest extent of history's largest empire until that point, by the time he died in 117 AD, when his Roman Empire stretched all the way from modern-day England, Portugal and Morocco in the Atlantic Ocean, circling the entire Mediterranean Sea, all the way to Egypt, Iran and Azerbaijan, thereby touching the Red Sea, the Persian Gulf and the Caspian Sea, at the fringes of Africa, Asia and Europe respectively. I'm sure there have been subsequent individuals in history who wanted to conquer Europe again in that way. Coming back to London, meanwhile, I have no clue why he looks like he's trying to cry, but all I can make out is that he's pointing up to the heavens, where he probably isn't since the year 117. Interestingly and ironically enough though, despite his statue's presence here, he never actually stepped foot in British soil at all, nor was he alive when this wall started existing. Whilst exploring the area, just to remind you that you're indeed in the 21st century though, we do have these Tour de France stickers from July 2007 on these adjacent planters as they began their cycling journey in London back in the day. You can actually get up high along the adjacent sundial at Wakefield Gardens for a great view of the magnificent structure below the sun, albeit the highest viewing platform is often barricaded at times. And this area was formerly an alleyway named Trinity Place when the Roman wall was torn through over a century ago. Skip away meanwhile, if you follow the path towards the rear terrace of the Citizen M Hotel right next door and head right to the end, you will discover further remains of the wall that the Romans left behind ages ago still in place that faces Cupid's Road that just looks awesome as historic ruins. And whilst heading there, you would walk past these inscriptional stones and this plaque, helpfully informing us that the British Museum has previously stolen artifacts from within its very own city where it is based too. But you didn't expect that. You can also get a great view of the hotel from the adjacent Trinity Square Gardens, as well as the Tower Hill Garden, which, let's be real, quite honestly is striking to see a 21st century structure still being sort of protected by being right next to one that's over a millennia and half older than it, all in one frame. Speaking of which, it is kinda crazy watching Boris buses, new roadmasters going right past this very Roman era masterpiece, stopping at the adjacent bus stop with not the most positive sounding coin letters, which just tells me just how far we have come in the very same city ever since. My favorite view though is walking up the walkway and capturing a panorama of the tube station that's right in front of the Shard, which is next to the Tower of London as viewed here, right across the road from the Roman Wall, all in a 180-degree field of view. Isn't that just cool? In the meantime, there are plenty more things out here for you to get the Roman vibe with, such as this inscription exactly like we saw a moment earlier, which is likely written in Latin that was used as the official language of the empire that gave birth to the modern day languages we know and love, such as Spanish, French, Portuguese, Italian, and Romanian, Catalan and Romansh too, of course, which we today call the Romance languages. A coincidence perhaps that French is seen as a language of romance today. But if you prefer history over linguistics back in your school days, then there is this London Wall walk sign number 2 in the vicinity, which gives some lovely historical background if you're ever bored, and the walk itself takes you around the perimeter of the boundary of the modern day city of London, inside the city named London. Speaking of which, it's a lovely spot for you if you want to take a break and chill out from your workspace during your day by taking a seat in the benches nearby, and potentially have a chat with fellow historians, or if you get lucky, perhaps handsome YouTubers like me.
And I can totally confirm that being next to a structure that's this old feels extraordinary, to say the least.
Whilst there, you can spot several children playing in the play area on the loaf of bread side of the wall in the Tower Hill Garden, which reminds me of just how tens of thousands of Londoners and tourists walk past this structure every day without giving a second to notice how important of a deal this pile of bricks and stones really is for shaping London as we know it today, alongside shaping this video, of course. A lot of you, of course, might visit here for checking out the Tower of London across the road or looking at the Shard in the background. But even if you already know that Tower Hill Station is already a convenient place to start touring the almost 2 millennia old Roman remains above ground, you now know that you can actually start seeing the Roman remains from inside the tube station itself. The station itself falls exactly outside the border of the City of London district that more or less corresponds to the ancient boundary of the Roman settlement of Londinium, as reminded by these marker posts and bollards you likely ignore right outside the main station exit marking the boundary. So what are you waiting for? Go get your fam out and impress them with your knowledge, not forgetting to credit me and sharing my video in the process. Hint, 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 hint. This is a perfect tourist spot for explorers and an absolute masterpiece for historians to investigate. I myself have used this station without ever realizing that this 2000-year-old piece of history is ever here. At most, daily passengers might just think that it's just an ugly hole in the wall at the far end of the platform without realizing its value and significance. Don't be shy and let me know in the comments if that was you, as it was me as well for a while too. So yeah, good luck with your hunt the next time you're around here. And since you made all the way here, at least in the video, Here's a helpful map for you, annotated to help you avoid any potential confusion regarding the numerous gardens at the site whilst you explore. And if you enjoyed watching this, then you will surely find my Instagram account fun, as I occasionally upload interactive stories on there, such as this poll about the wall, now that YouTube doesn't support the poll feature on the info card on videos nowadays. And finally, if you enjoyed watching my video up until here, then checking out my YouTube channel's page would be romantic.